Why hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and this is a LOTRO guide today, my friends. We are going to talk about epic battles, some big tips, alright? A bunch of tips for you guys on epic battles, things that I've been doing epic battle live streams here with our Kinship on CrickHollow and here on the channel, so don't forget to like, subscribe if you want to join us. Go to any of my live streams. I have also a link to Discord there you can join and things like that. So any of our newest live streams, there'll be a good link there for a week with that, with Discord. And yeah, since Zollin, just don't forget to like and subscribe if you do want to join us too. And that way, no matter what server you're on in LOTRO. And big thing we're talking about again today is tips, okay? Different things to cover and know in LOTRO epic battles. Whether you are someone who is new, it doesn't know a lot, or someone maybe that just, you've played a lot and there's stuff you learned, right? Again, I've learned a bunch in the last few weeks that I want to pass on to you guys, my subscribers. So epic battles, shift B to open it, or go into your little tab here and click on epic battles. So the first big one, there's a little one little glitch that they haven't fixed. Just a little side note tip for it is the defense of Minas Tirith, I believe. Don't remove grapple hooks, right? Not for the big siege towers. You have to destroy those. I mean the regular grapple hooks. They come up. There's a weird glitch that if you remove too many of them, something happens and you go in limbo. The instance won't end. It won't do the next mission. It won't end. There's something that they'll probably fix sooner or later, standing stones. But just a little side note, it's not something you have to do, by the way. You don't have to remove grapple hooks. It just lowers how many enemies come up. That's kind of the benefit of removing them. But it's possible to win and get really high scores without that anyway. So that's a side note. All right. So the first things we're gonna do is levels in promotions. Something for promotions, I have a whole video on promotions. They're kind of like the trait trees. You can go watch that video because it in itself is a long video. So we're going to side note here. But whatever you put your points into, this is something that's important. If you're a newer player, if you like newer as in lower level, okay? So skirmishes, so one thing with epic battles that's very important is it sets your level to 100, okay? It's something very cool. It's very fun to do with your kinship or your / guild, right? Because no matter who's there, as long as your character's level 10, you can do it. Now, I'd recommend you be more like level 20 or 30 when you do it because it scales you up, but you're still a lot weaker if you're just like level 10 when you join it. And if you are high level 140, it brings you down to 100, but you're very powerful still. Okay, so there's bonuses to being higher level and having better gear, but it will put everyone at a point where everyone can participate and have fun. But if you are a lower level character, you have less promotion points and you haven't done a lot of epic battles, you want to most likely focus on being an engineer for your group, right? Engineers are probably one of the more important classes. Officers will be something that allow you to heal, right? The soldiers. So your main goals in epic battles are going to be repairing things and doing objectives and keeping stuff fixed and like banners, military equipment, siege equipment, that kind of stuff, certain locations fixed and repaired, and keeping your troops alive. And one way is there's a cooldown timer on a heal ability, defense ability on the officer that leads a group of soldiers, which is or the captain or whatever. And at us as officer role, you can have a faster cooldown timer on those heals. All right. So there's a couple little things about those heals too that I'll talk about in a minute when I get to that point. Vanguard also have the ability to help just kill units and give buffs around them to their friends and stuff. It's kind of fun. Vanguard are probably the least important role in epic battles. Not that they're not important, but you can get through an epic battle with only engineers and maybe an officer. It's not ideal to have just all vanguards and no engineers. You're going to want some engineers, okay? So, and again, this is the important thing with the ranking, and you can go watch my promotion video that'll help you out on this. I have a whole separate video on it. But as you put points in, just like with the trees with class, you get special upgrades. So just remember, there are tiers that you get as you put points into your tree. That'll be important in a moment, okay? So let's go ahead and start an epic battle real quick here, and I will go through all of these other main tips. I'm going to do Helm's Dyke solo, because this will be a good one to show you the things I want to show you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this one. Yes. All right, put ourselves in the queue there. Wait a moment, stay in queue. Sometimes you have to do this with epic battles. It usually takes a few seconds and you'll launch. So if this happens, say yes, stay in queue, don't do anything, just wait a second, all right? And again, I'm not gonna make you wait. Baruch Kazad. By the way, I only waited like 3 seconds, even though you only had to wait a half second. So I'm gonna travel in here, all right? epic battles, and I have my little notes here. I want to go over these as efficient and as quickly as possible for you guys, so you don't have to try to keep notes and stuff. But let's first talk about laying down spikes. This is very important, okay? So this is something that anyone can do. An engineer will be able to do it faster. So, for example, I could right-click him when to start the battle, right? But what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go over here, and wherever you find spikes on the field, all right, you can turn on floating names if you want with N, and then you can see what objects are interactable with, like these spikes, for example. These spikes are not really in a great spot, okay? So, for example, enemies are going to be coming up this spot to fight these soldiers, all right? So what I like to do is this is really important to realize, okay? This is the next tip, right? Okay? We're going to talk about this command bar here, okay? How you control things. So for spikes, you can right-click it. This will appear. Realize that whatever one you're right-clicked on is the one that's going to appear. The command bar up here. You could upgrade it to do some more defense and abilities, but I'm going to dismantle it. I will show you why I'm dismantling it in a second. So you'll dismantle it. Just stand here. Wait for this to finish. It's going to appear. Sometimes it'll float in the air. Make sure you right-click it there. Pick it up. You have to be, it says rank 1 engineer. So only engineers can do this, okay? So then you have this little ability bar here that you can move around down here. If you grab the edge of it, you can move this around. You have this on the other ones too, but mainly the engineers have this. There's some traps. We'll talk about it in a minute. But then you can take this left click and then see the barricade. If you're someone, it doesn't really matter what angle the barricade's at. It has a big AoE. You just want to slow down the mobs so that your NPCs can kill them. So I like to place it somewhere in the middle. Another tip, do not go too far outside the battlefield. If I go down to where those dead bodies are, you'll start getting randomly shot by these high level damage arrows and you'll just die, okay? So that's a good tip to remember. So I like to put it somewhere like right here. Again, you can move it to kind of angle the spikes if you want to make it realistic, but it doesn't matter. You could literally put them backwards and it'll do the exact same thing, okay? So don't worry about that. So place, boom, and now I like to upgrade it, right? And then, you know, I'm going to upgrade it to have some extra spike damage on there. It says you contribute amount of work. By the way, huge thing when it comes to siege equipment. I'll have a whole separate video on siege equipment, or any objective. You could do it together. All right. And again, you can also repair it if it's damaged, right? You can do the repair button and that kind of thing. There's also an extinguish button, right? To extinguish something on fire. These are the banners, okay? So there's spikes, right? And that command window that pops up, all right? So the next thing I want to talk about is repairing things and keeping things alive. For example, we have things like make sure soldiers don't die, it says, right? Commanders, which are these guys, defeated, and also banners burned. You don't want banners burned. So you can always run up to banners, you can extinguish them, or you can repair them if they're damaged, okay? And again, this little window will always pop up when you click on a banner, siege equipment, a commander, anything to interact with. That window will always be your way to interact with things, okay? So it'll always be this simple. So now, example, if you're an officer, this is kind of important, okay? Remember I told you to wait till later in the video? Okay, this is the moment. Here's where you heal. They'll heal the group of soldiers they're in charge of. Whenever you click on one of them, if you notice, you can see what other they're in charge of. So for example, these guys are being led by this guy, right? Now, if you notice here, I have a cooldown timer separately, all right? So there is kind of a universal cooldown timer for each one, but there's also a separate cooldown for some people. So remember that you can all kind of help each other, but ideally you want officers to be doing the commands because it'll make their cooldowns faster, all right? So there's a little bit of a weird line that they cross there in the game. So there's a defense ability, a couple other abilities you can use, a haste ability. A lot of times I'll just run up and I'll click them all if a certain line is having troubles or they're dying, but you really want to be using that heal ability. And again, yes, there is two kinds of cooldowns. As you can see here when I hover it, at that button over there, that thing that says heal, it says your cooldown 10 seconds more, commander's cooldown another 1 second, all right? So the commander's cooldown's up. Someone else could cast it right now, but not me. But I'm gonna be able to cast it again in 2 seconds, right? So now I can cast the heal again, right? And again, you can see my cooldown is just slightly longer than the commander's cooldown. So there is a universal cooldown, right, for the commander, and then if you also have a faster cooldown for yourself individually. So officers casting it is usually better because they get bonuses to those cooldowns, depending on what point you have in that tree. So that's pretty much it when it comes to commanders, healing, and officers. All right, so now let's talk about the next pod here. Okay, and keeping things repaired, objectives. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is objectives change per se. So epic battles you can run over and over, and there are certain objectives that will always be the same type of objective, but they're not always going to be the same every single time you do the epic battle, right? So for example, there in this epic battle, there is an objective where you can do defend the back line over here, right? There's a spot where you can defend back there. And then there's also another one where there's, you know, they're attacking the left flank, or there's one where they're trying to burn this tower and the other tower over there. They change, right? So those are the objectives you have to be prepped for and kind of ready for. Now, by the way, another little sneak peek thing. I moved that barricade ahead right now. It hasn't started because I have not right-clicked gambling and started the epic battle yet. So if you want to prep early and get stuff done ahead, your team can run around and get all the barricades set up, get all your artillery set up. You can actually set things up. Now, when you hover these, I'm going to talk about this in a moment. But anyway, that's another little trick, right? So remember, they're going to be changing events, so you can learn them as you go, as you do the epic battle over and over. What is what event? Something that's very helpful is the map will actually show what you're defending. So if you're solo, they're only going to have you defend one side of the dike at a time, and then you kind of move. If it's the 12-man for the dike, or I don't know if the dike is only 6, but the other one, the deeping wall, is a 12-man. Normally, if you're a 6-man, you'll only make you defend one part of the wall together. If you're a 12-man, you defend the whole wall, okay? So it's kind of fun, right? The 12-man, we have yet to do it on the channel. That we will do it in the future on a stream or an epic battle playlist. But it's really important to remember, try to learn all the different events and what they are. But again, if you don't know, click M and it'll show you. It'll have a little shield symbol or this little symbol. And you can see, oh, I'm supposed to be defending this side. Oh, I'm supposed to be there defending that. You know, that's the main objective, right? That kind of thing, right? So that's important. So now the next thing I want to talk about is siege equipment real quickly, but I'm going to have a whole separate video on siege equipment, okay? So basically, you can pick up these boxes to build siege equipment, all right? So basically, to build a siege equipment, so again, I could build a barricade. This is a barricade, rank 1 engineer. I could build a ballista. You have to be a rank 3 engineer. Remember, I talked about the rank things at the beginning? This is the promotions. This is what matters. Those ranks are how many promotions you have inside your thing. So again, these are all ranks. I'm up to a rank 6 engineer because I have so many points. I'm able to put them in. In fact, I even have more points to use now if I wanted to, right? So again, yeah. So I'm a full level rank engineer right now. So again, I could pick up and do any of these, right? So let's say I want to take this small catapult, okay? So I'm going to set up this small catapult. Now, a good spot to set up small catapult, hint, hint, for Helm's Dyke, is when they try to destroy Helm's statue as one of the events. And trolls will usually run up through this thing and run past the soldiers and just go straight for that. So the first thing good to do is build your barricades. Put up your spike barricades. Put like one here, and again, remember they're big AoE. So if I put a spike barricade here, it'll cover like an entire circle like this. So I'd want to put another spike barricade maybe like right here because it'll cover this whole area, right? And maybe you have another spike barricade down here so it covers this area. All right. Again, prepping for the event is important. Now, to help destroy them faster, another good way as an engineer is you get traps. You can have a bear trap. This is a certain amount of time, duration it lasts, and it works on 1 or 2 enemies usually. And basically, it just traps them and stuns them, right? And they're stuck. You know, there's a bear trap on that orc's foot. Poor. Anyway, and then there's also the caltropes, right? Which are the spikes you throw down. Slows people down, but really I really like tripwires. They're very, very effective, very good. So you just place it in a spot, make sure you know that the people run through there a lot, and they'll run over this, and if they hit in this square, it'll trip them and it'll knock them over. Great for fighting the trolls. So set up a tripwire, right? When the trolls are coming, all the engineers can set up a bunch of tripwires, and then what you do is I'm going to set up a catapult, all right? So again, it sort of matters with the angle with the catapult compared to the spikes because of where it can shoot. But I'm assuming this kind of catapult, you can place it anywhere as long as it's green. I'm going to prep it and set it up like right here. All right. So I'm going to set it there. So now it needs to be built. So right click on it. Oh, look, here's your control panel, right? That'll always pop up when you right click on it. And I'm going to say build, the build button, okay? So as an engineer, I'm going to build pretty quick. Multiple people can be building this, guys, all right? Multiple people can build this thing. That's the thing people have to remember, okay? So multiple people could be building this. There could be 3 people building this, and it will build faster, okay? So you can add your building or controls together, and I'll explain this a little bit more in a future video on siege engines, okay, in epic battles. But now, for example, if you want to crank it back, nothing's in it right now. So first we're going to do 1 crank back, and you'll notice a white thing will appear, auto use. All right, let's see, where's the white thing? Is it way back there? Oh, excuse me, I have to load it too. So load options, I'm an engineer, so I have all these load options. So I'm just gonna use a heavy shell. So I'm gonna load it. Oh, look at, there it is. So there's the circle, that's where it's gonna shoot, right? Again, it's not gonna shoot very far, because I only cranked it back once. It's a catapult, right? I could crank it back more, and if someone else was helping me, it'd be a lot faster to crank. See, I could shoot it farther forward. Okay, so that's where it's gonna shoot now, all right? And then you click fire to fire at will, right? Now, here's the cool thing. Multiple things can be happening at once. You can also go right or left, right? So if I wanted to move it once right, I can slightly move it right. Look at that, I can, and it'll keep doing it. If you let go, it'll just keep cranking it right more and more, okay? It'll just keep cranking it. You might not want to keep cranking it that much though. And again, remember, one person can be cranking and aiming and loading, and another person could fire. So for example, now I'm gonna fire. Pachoo! Let's see, the troll hit that tripwire, boom. Takes a ton of damage, right? People will be killing him too, right? Other, you know, some of your fighters, your Vanguard fighters. But now let's say one person is cranking, starts cranking it back, getting it ready again, and the other person loads a shell in it. Now, of course, I can only do one or the other, but if 2 people are working at the same time, you can crank, 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 fire. Someone can be loading again, someone could be cranking back, another person can fire again. So you can work together on the same siege equipment. I think that's a really cool mechanic. I think it's very realistic, because obviously if you've watched any medieval things or anything in actual history, is that most siege people, there was a full team for siege equipment. It wasn't just one guy putting a load in, cranking back, release, loads it. There was like a team, right? Just like today with cannons, and in the Revolutionary Wars and all that stuff in the 1800s, 1900s, right? It was a team that worked with cannons, right? One guy cleans it, one guy loads it, one guy fires it, preps it, holds it, right? There's like 4 of them, right, for one cannon, or 3 or 4. Same thing with trebuchets, same thing with catapults, right? Difference with catapult and trebuchet, right? Trebuchet has a weight, free weight, hanging weight thing, right? This is more of a catapult style because it's just one hinge and fires, right? And then there's also ballistas. So they have all of them in. Anyway, I'm going into a history lesson, sorry, this is a guide video for LOTRO. All right, moving on. So repairing things, this is really important. You have to realize you can repair things. So again, if this got damaged or set on fire, you could extinguish it, you could repair it. A lot of times in the one battle for Minas Tirith, there are built-in trebuchets and catapults that are built in. You can repair those, but once they break, you can't get them back. So you need to have someone always there, and multiple people can repair. So if it's taking damage from enemy catapults and someone's trying to shoot, 2 people could be repairing the catapult while 1 or 2 are firing it and trying to destroy the catapults. That's very essential to sometimes have multiple people on an objective like that. Same thing with, like, this cannot be destroyed from one of the events. You could actually extinguish it and repair it. So if it takes some damage, just go repair it. Same thing with the banners, right? You just right click them and then that little window will pop up. It might pop up anywhere on your thing to control. You can always grab the top middle and move it around anywhere on the screen. I like having it in the bottom left. It looks nice for videos, right? Okay, that kind of thing. So that is really, really important. Where to tab? Good. I think, yeah, that's all. Okay, I think I covered all the big tips I needed to tell you guys about for epic battles. Know where things spawn. That's a big one. That's really important. Events change. We talked about that one. Yeah, we did it. We covered it. That was a lot of the big ones. And then at the beginning, again, that little tiny bug on the defensive Minas Tirith, right, with grapple hooks. But the other ones you can remove grapple hooks on the other Minas Tirith ones and stuff, and Rohan. So anyway, that is about it, my friends. So I'm going to have a little bit more in-depth guide on just siege equipment later on. But until then, feel free to leave comments, like, subscribe. Subscribe button's going to be there. A quick little shout out and thanks to my Patreons for their support, and Skumley for being a royal guard of the Citadel. I appreciate the support. And next episode will be up there. We'll have the other one out with the epic, with siege engines. I'll have a little more details. And over there is a LOTRO tale where I do voiceovers, Lord of the Rings Online. So I'll see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. Baruch Kazan, Kuzare Menu. Happy epic battles, my friends. See ya.